That doesn't help. That doesn't help. This doesn't help. This doesn't help. That doesn't help. I need help! Can somebody tell me where I can find help?
Welcome back to CTCT, everybody. We are still on season 1 and today is episode 3. You are here with Ghost and
Griffin D, and today we are here at the 4 and 20 coffee shop here in Wynberg.
We are far.
We're in Wynberg.
Yeah, we're far away from home.
Yeah, man, we out here today. The sun is shining. It's lovely, and there's something in the air.
It's coffee. It's coffee.
It's the coffee. Must be the coffee.
Okay, guys, I know you saw the advert that just played. How dope is this place? It's so zen right now. Anyway, I digress. So today's topic is how and where to find help. I don't know if you remember last month's episode. If you didn't, please go watch it. I'm gonna link it somewhere. Go check it out. So from there, the topic was preparation and praxis. So how to prepare yourself to get into your craft, the thing you want to do for life, the thing you love, your future career. And today we're discussing how and where to get help, because obviously at this point you know what you want, but where do you get the help? How do you start? Hey, what do you think?
You know, sometimes we know what we need, but we don't know where to find it. And that's why we ask.
That's why we ask. That's what we're here for. For the locals, by the locals. I love it most. You've heard our side of the story. In episode 1, the very first episode, we discussed how we got into what we're doing.
Yeah.
And in the second episode, we got on Boris. You all know Boris. And this time, we've got a little twist for you.
Special, extra special.
With some spice on top.
Guys, today we have the beautiful, the creative. We have...
Before you say her name, you guys need to know something about her. I was chatting to her earlier on, and she was telling me about how she grew up in the Eastern Cape, and then she came to Cape Town to study UCT. But when she came to Cape Town to study, she didn't come to study what she felt was her dreams, because you guys know how it is growing up. Your parents want you to do this, that, and the other, get that degree, become that doctor, but you know in your heart that's not what you want to do. And so our guest was saying that, you know, if my guest doesn't mind saying, she was not successful at those studies. And once she proved to her parents that it's a she, spoiler, she proved that she could get the degree in what she wanted to do, then she had it, her degree, and she started off a business from the ground. She quit her job and she's like, you know what? Screw society, I'm going to do what I want to do. And I really hope that her story inspires you to go out there and do what you want to do. So can we please welcome...
Siphokazi Jonas.
Yeah!
So Siphokazi.
What's that?
Wait, I'm sorry, man. I just, every time I think of you, I just think of that first time I saw you perform.
Yeah.
And the poetry was on another level, I must say. I can't remember the poem itself,
Yeah.
but it was potent.
By the way, Siphokazi is a poet. She's a
That was
poet.
implied.
Yeah, a
it
very
was.
successful business owner poet.
Yeah. If you don't know her, then there's clearly something wrong with
Not
you.
with me, with you.
Come on.
Google.
Google,
Google.
guys.
She's
Like
on
that'll-
the Google.
Google graduates. You know who you are. But, Siphokazi, for yourself, you know, being a poet, how easy or how difficult is it to find assistance in pursuing a career with poetry?
So, It's difficult, and at the same time, I think it's getting a little bit easier because of Professor Google. So let me start with the easy part, right?
Okay.
In terms of information, Google really can be your savior because information is online. I think
It's right
people
there
are
at your
putting
fingertips.
things out, whether it's websites trying to find about funding that's happening with the Department of Arts and Culture, for example, or finding workshops, and I'll break those down as we go along. Or finding classes that relate to your craft. Make Google your friend, make Twitter and Facebook your friend. You'll find groups that relate to your craft. Perhaps there's I know that as an example, there's the if you're a freelancer, there are websites on being freelancer. You know how to invoice. They share with you what kind, the kind of work you should actually be doing when you think about how to invoice, so that you can actually afford to do what
Like
you're
the
doing.
basics of business.
Right?
Okay.
You'll have writers groups where people gather, they read, whether maybe they say they attend festivals where you can find out people are putting together anthologies. The internet.
Wow.
Yes.
Clearly
the
we're using it
internet.
wrong.
No, most of the time it's just keeping up with the hashtags. But there's actually a lot of information that's available online.
Okay.
The difficult part is, as an example, I'll use poetry as an example because it's such a niche. It's unlike music. I mean, if you try to be a hip hop
rapper.
type, yes, if you just want to drop the bars, and punchlines, I think the industry is ripe for that. It's like being a comedian. This
Yeah.
is a very good time to be a comedian, but you have to be funny. Like you have to
Yeah.
find, you actually have to stand out.
You
and
actually-
shine.
Or you can just wear the Hollywood dress.
Yeah,
Carry
I don't
on.
know.
Nah, that's forget about
This is an
that.
example of what not to
what
do as
not
a
to do.
comedian.
Sorry. Take notes.
Sorry, it's that spice we're
Yeah,
talking about.
Yeah, that spice.
You know,
That's the curry she's drinking. I don't know. Curry. That's curry coffee.
Curry in a
tea.
cup, guys.
turmeric. It's
Curry.
okay. So it's quite difficult when you're in a much smaller industry because
Yeah.
it isn't as advanced and there perhaps
Okay.
isn't as much information. Something very simple. When you look at the categories for funding
Okay.
with arts and culture, for
Yeah.
example, there's something called the Mzansi Golden Economy,
Okay.
which they put out a call funding for productions, for example, whether
Okay.
you're putting a book together and it's for publishing, so different art forms. And it's taken a while to actually get poetry or literature as a category
So
for
everything
people to
else came
apply.
before
So
poetry.
yes, so some of the more traditional ones like theater or music or dance, those were very, those are easy to find.
Sounds
So
like
if
a
you're trying to-
popularity contest to me. Like
Well-
the more popular it is, that's gonna get funding first.
I think it's just more established. For a lot of people, spoken word is a little bit newer,
Okay.
especially in South Africa.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's
yeah,
growing
okay.
exponentially.
Definitely.
But it's a lot more advanced in the US and the UK, for example.
Yeah.
Like
Right? So you
everything else.
actually get a little bit of funding that's coming through from the arts and culture department. So we've had to do some work to actually get it recognized, and there's still
Okay.
a lot of work. So if I said I want to put together a slam competition
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
a poetry festival,
Yeah.
it's not as easy as saying a book festival.
Yeah.
Or
Yes.
literary,
Yeah,
that
for
kind of
sure.
literary festival. A lot of people still only think of poetry as what they did in high school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right,
Definitely.
I hear
which
you.
they hated. It's like, oh,
Definitely.
Shakespeare. No. You know what I mean?
I shall not have to the
When
poetry.
you're like, no, actually, no, we're talking spoken word,
Yeah.
we're talking.
Yeah.
Then there's a lot of education that still needs to happen.
Yeah.
And socialization, helping people understand
Okay.
the work that we do in this contemporary moment.
Yeah.
So that's what makes it difficult, is that it's so small, it's such a niche, and also finding a kind of standard,
Okay.
right? So that it's we have something that says this is the standard of what our craft is about. Like this is when it's done really well.
Okay.
Poetry sometimes I feel as if people can pretty much, if they have a pen and a page, they write down, and then just because it's
Yeah.
adjusted to the left margin,
You're a poet
like
now.
It's a poem now. You're like,
Adjusted to the left margin.
There
Oh
we
my
go.
there's a lot of craft that goes behind it, and
Definitely.
but that's also how we started. So these
definitely.
are my
On the left
emotions and
margin.
angst, and I'm a teenager with feelings. So
My ink is up, my pen is dry, my love for you shall never die.
Yeah.
poems like that should die.
Oh my
It's fine.
gosh.
So it's also within this field itself as
Yeah.
poets, there's work that we need to do
Yeah.
to become more visible, but to ensure that the quality of what we put out is much higher as
Okay.
well.
Okay, so I wanted to know, in your opinion, do you think poetry is wildly misunderstood? As you said earlier, people think if it's on the left side of the page and it's structured in a certain way, it's a poem. So do you think maybe that's why people don't give poetry the attention they deserve? Because they don't actually know what it is?
I think people don't read poetry enough.
To know what it is
Yeah.
about.
It's that simple. Like if you're a musician,
Wow.
you have to listen to music.
Okay.
That's how you learn and improve your craft. You have to understand what the greats have done. You have to understand what. So it's like you need to learn the rules before you know how to break them. And sometimes
Wow.
you just want to start from the premise of no, I'm unique. I just wanna no. You actually need to understand what it is
Yeah.
that you're subverting.
But like I'm saying, like in music, everyone listens to music, whether they're a musician
Yes,
or not.
yes,
So with
yes.
poetry, why don't people pick up a book of poems and just read it? Because that's what I'm saying. Why don't they give poetry the attention it deserves?
So two answers. The first is for poets who write poetry without immersing themselves in the craft. I think it's this misconception that it's just about your feelings.
Okay.
As long as you can. So we all have feelings. If you can put them
Yeah.
on a page, like I said, just get the right, then then it's a
Yeah,
poem.
definitely,
That's one
definitely.
part. Secondly, I don't think there's as much money put behind making poetry popular.
Okay.
Right? So with music, you hear it. It's
Yeah.
on radio, it's
Definitely.
in jingles, it's in ads, it's everything.
Everywhere, yeah.
It's really impossible to miss. But with poetry, because I guess it does have that reputation as something that you only studied in school, and it's boring. That's the other side of it. Let's be honest,
Yeah.
right? Then there's no interest. But you'll find that within this very small field, there's a lot of interesting things happening.
Yeah. Okay.
But again, the internet has popularized poetry a little bit more because you have people watching videos
Yeah.
on YouTube.
Yes.
Uploading their own videos, you know?
Absolutely. So some of the big movements, even collectors of poetry like Strivers Row or P4CM, or so these big, especially American groups that have done slam. There's Button Poetry, where they do this national slam. So
Okay.
the internet is doing a good job.
Yeah.
But I think there's still not enough interest in reading poetry
Okay.
because
Yeah.
there's something
Definitely.
about the page. It's one thing to see, to watch a video,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but it's another to sit and look at how language works on
Yeah.
the page.
Yeah, no.
That is not done enough, and because
Okay.
I think there's a fear of influence. People feel like, oh, if I read, I'll be too influenced by someone else's style. Why not?
Yeah.
That's how music works.
Beyonce is influenced by Aretha Franklin, by Whitney Houston. You know what I mean? It's not
There we
so
go.
you just stand up as some amazing. You actually do need the history. You do need the traditions.
Definitely.
Of
It
your
starts
craft.
with somewhere, so you're going to pick it up from somewhere.
Absolutely.
You don't
And you
want
build on top of
born
that.
skill. No, you're influenced. So,
Yeah.
an influence, okay?
Influence,
Influence
guys.
is good. Don't steal.
Yeah, that's
Not saying
another.
be
Plagiarize,
influencer. We say
but
be
be
influenced.
Yeah, and that's also how you find your voice.
Yeah.
I think sometimes we want to find our voices in a vacuum, but that it just doesn't work like that. You
Yeah.
develop it
You do.
by taking in what other people have
Definitely.
already created.
You know, just listening to what you've said there, and I think that is also, you make a valid point. Do not plagiarize, guys. And I mean, even for poets, I believe that, somebody that writes something, that piece of art, or that piece of work that you've just put down on that piece of paper, it came from you. You gave birth to that.
Yeah.
And sometimes even our poets, because poets have this perception that all of us as poets we are honest, we are pure, we have integrity. How does a poet protect their work and not sit with a situation where someone heard them recite a piece and took that as it was and then performs the exact same thing but makes money from it?
Well, Griffin, I think this is a very important question because everyone has that fear.
Yeah.
I think to sit in regard. And to be honest, I've seen it happen. I've heard a poem and I thought, this sounds familiar.
Sounds very familiar.
I'm pretty sure, Google and found it.
Wow.
And that was quite tragic. And, people try to change it, but it's just don't
Yeah.
do it.
Just don't
write
do
your
it.
own work.
Yeah,
But in terms of protecting, I don't think it's 100% easy to do that, right? Because people do find interesting and creative ways to steal work. But also because the copyright laws in South Africa are a little bit difficult to negotiate and kind of navigate. That's what's happening right now with the musicians, right? There's I think it's the Capasso, which has to do with music rights. There's Samro, you know, there's a whole thing in terms of the paying out of royalties and residuals, all of that stuff. For writers, in general, I'll actually give in general, there's an organization called Dalro, which is our Samro, right?
Okay.
Which is for dramatic, literary, something Elro
Things with
arts.
words.
Yeah, literary arts though. So where you can actually register, for example, as a playwright, you can register your script.
Oh, okay.
And then I think probably lasts like a year, and then you just pay. But people then would have to pay some licensing fee to be able to perform your work.
Okay.
Right? So at least you have that proof. As far as I know, I don't know if it's still accurate, but as far as I know, as soon as you write your work, as soon as you put on paper, it's yours. The copyright belongs to you.
It belongs to you.
Definitely.
An old method, I don't know if it's still used, that people used to make, is that once you've written your collection, or it probably works easier when it's a collection, is they would print it out and then send it to themselves via registered mail.
Old
So you know, like the date and time and everything when it was done.
You can prove that.
And some better if
that
it's
you wrote it
handwritten,
first.
scan it through, you know, if it's handwritten it's better,
When it comes to performed work, I mean, it's a lot harder.
I can
It's
imagine.
a lot harder. But I guess if you put it up on your YouTube, Vimeo, whatever,
There's proof
then there's it's really around the date. But it's about ownership. And so that's the best that I can think of for. But the issue really is around the making of money. I think that's where it sometimes it can be flattering. I've had people who say, you know, I love your poem, can I perform it? And I'm like, absolutely, go for it, as long as you just acknowledge who wrote it, and then hopefully if you can send me a video so I can see it. You know? So really, it can be flattering in that regard. But those are the things that I would say are helpful. I guess if someone did make money from your work, that's where you could bring the quotes in. But if you're typing, you know, you'll make sure your stuff is dated. You've got to just keep a record. Just keep a record of your work.
Keep a record,
Yeah.
And in the case of someone wants to be a poet but they don't know where to start, what would you recommend for that person?
A poet in just terms of writing, or writing and performance?
In general.
How does someone go from just writing on paper to becoming a Siphokazi Jonas?
Maybe not even that. Like, you just like poetry, but you don't know it. Like, you can't always just jump. As you say, people just want to jump to the top. So, like, you have all these ideas in your head, but you don't know. Should you write it? Who you can tell it to? Like, what's the very beginning of becoming a poet?
So if you just feel like it's in you, this thing just wants to get out, wants to get on page. You know, not everyone wants to share immediately, and I've met a number of people who just want to write for themselves, and that's amazing. You know, so keep at it. If you're interested in publishing, for people that are in high school, there's a collection called the English Alive, which publishes high school poets and actually short stories as well. English Alive. So you can find them online, and they can send forms to your school, or I think you probably can download, or speak to an English teacher. And you can submit work, and they publish the ones that they select, and it's every single year.
That's amazing.
So I was published in that collection when I was in high school.
Wow.
Right. There are also a number of online literary journals that you can look at, submit, find. There's New Contrast. There is Hlanga also publishes, but they publish collections. But some publish every quarter stanzas. So there's a number of South African poetry journals where you can submit, and they usually publish 4 times a year or twice a year.
That's amazing.
Yes, and then there's international ones as well.
Seriously,
Go
I had
online.
no idea about these things. Absolutely no idea. This is amazing.
Internet, I'm telling you, it's all in there. Or you can even go to your library, because some of them do stock these journals, and actually find out, to be able to go and read.
So you don't get hurt.
Sorry, my little curry spoon there.
Oh, yeah, curry spoon.
So go to your library and ask them, because they're the ones that would source the material from publishers, right? Find anthologies, and then ask what the submission rules are. Right. So then there's the Soul Plaiki European Union Award, for example, where they put out a call. They're on the online Soul Plaiki European Union Award. You submit once a year, and then they choose the top 3,
Okay.
And then there's winners and so on. But for the ones that they select, the long list, they get published.
Okay,
And
so
that's every
really
single year.
cool.
So find anthologies, find poetry, literary journals, whether they're hard copy or they're online, both South African and international. If you're just a writer. If you're a performer, I've got something for everyone. Got you covered. If you're a performer, I started a church.
Okay.
That's what I was sharing. And
Okay.
I still do.
That's beautiful.
But in terms of for me, it's a really safe space
Okay.
to share because people are going to be like, yay, amazing,
Yeah.
amen, no matter what you
Amen, sister. Amen. Tear in the eye,
That
you
is
know.
true. That
even
is
if
true.
you suck. So, which people don't. It's a really great confidence boost, and it's an easily accessible platform in terms of
Okay.
getting used to building your stage presence,
Yeah.
interacting with an audience. So,
Okay.
that's one space that you could definitely be part of. I always say whenever I work with young poets who are in school, start a poetry group.
Okay.
You've got lunch break.
Yeah.
You guys only need 15 minutes, 20 minutes to share your work.
Yeah.
Get together in a little. That's how we did it.
Wow.
The little group of writers in our school, we kind of meet. Eventually, we turned like we got a writing society.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To the point where we argued for. Now we have sports colors.
Okay, yes, yes.
We got
Okay.
creative writing colors.
Oh, okay.
We petitioned the principal.
Yeah.
We're like,
Wow.
no, some of us aren't sports fanatics,
Yeah.
but we're creative, so
Yes,
we
we're
need
creative.
those. Yeah. So that's a legacy that we left at our school, where you
Okay.
could actually get if you publish poetry, performance on, you could end up getting colors for creative writing.
That you guys petitioned for.
Yes,
That
I
is
was
flipping
in that group
amazing.
so by the time I left, so start
Beautiful.
among your thank you, for the ones behind us. So start your own little poetry group. Find people in your community. There's Poetry for Life, especially if you're in school. Poetry for Life, where you can submit. I think it's through your school, and they read and perform poems once a
Okay.
year. And there's actually a national competition. So it's in the different
There's so
provinces. I think there's a little local, provincial, and so on, until they get to the finals of that.
That's amazing.
If you're not in school, I've got you covered. There's
You are
poetry
covered. You're like
circles.
insurance. You got everything covered.
Get covered,
Siphokazi
guys.
insurance. Get covered.
Oh my goodness. Central Library in town. Every Saturday they have a poetry circle. Yeah, you can. There's an open mic, and they have a guest poet. I think
Okay.
it's if it's not every week, it's every month.
Okay.
But just Central Library. I'm on the newsletter, so they send out whenever they have. And I think now they're actually going to be publishing some of the poems that have been performed
That's amazing.
on there. Attend the festivals. You've got Open Book Festival, you've got Franschhoek, you've got McGregor. So all of those poetry festivals are very worthy to attend because you have poets that come in and present. You have poetry sessions that happen. Poetry sessions
Oh,
are where it's
know.
at in terms of sharing.
Yeah.
So if you're starting out, those are the places I would say you absolutely have to. Those are the channels that will help you to also meet other poets.
Yeah,
And not just
that's
be
important.
in your little silo as well.
Hey, no, guys. I mean, if you are a poet, there is so much out there for you. I mean, you heard for yourself, and
Definitely.
I didn't know about any of this. And
Siphokazi, something that I really want to understand from you, and I think that the viewers also would like to understand, is: are South African poets respected and acknowledged to the extent where when you see a poet or when someone walks down the street, they can say, "Oh no, I know you. You're that poet. You are such and such." We see it with musicians, where they, whilst they are alive, they're putting in work, they're creating amazing art, but only once they pass on, then their work gets acknowledged. Do you think this is the case for South African poets?
So I think within the industry itself, there is a certain, there's a level of respect and recognition because it's among people who enjoy what we do.
Yeah.
Often a lot of our audiences are poets themselves. So people come to poetry generally are people who already enjoy. So they come because, they love the work, they're interested in what we're doing. So there is that recognition and respect. It doesn't always translate into ticket sales or
Yeah.
book sales, which I think is probably a much greater form of recognition
yeah.
than just saying,
Like,
"Oh, hey, I know
respect me
you.
with your
Have I
money."
Yeah.
seen you?" You know what I mean? It's like
Definitely.
being popular versus,
yeah,
yeah. So in larger society, less so.
Okay.
I think so. On a traditional aspect, if I think about Imbongi,
Okay.
which is especially in whether it's Xhosa culture, Zulu culture, Sotho, where you have a praise poet. There are definitely. Sorry, can I come? You can cut me and then come back because the bird. I'm not a fan. Not a fan.
Wait, hold up. I'm gonna call you back. I'm just looking at this bird.
Okay. Back. Yes. So I think when I think broader audience or larger society, not as much. Certainly, as I said, spoken word is still growing.
Yeah.
And I'm using that simply because it's a performance art. So that's where people are more likely to see and listen to a poet like Lebo Mashile, who is quite well known, but she also did a lot of television work.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So that's how she was able to spread to places that most poets can't. People aren't going to come to a poetry session if they don't already know and appreciate poetry. People aren't going to come to theater if that's not already what they love, which is why music moves easier, right? So in larger society, not the poets that I think do get that respect and recognition are praise poets, right? Because they're part of a culture and a tradition. So if you think praise poets who introduce presidents, the opening of parliament, the state of the nation address, in society, those people are more recognized. There's one who's quite well known, like Jessica Mbangeni.
Sorry, but isn't it because they're associated with someone who is already popular?
Yes, so there is that high profile. I mean, those are the events that the people are like. So that I mean, broader society. There's already a tradition behind a praise poet.
Okay.
With what we're doing, more contemporary spoken word, not as much. So I do know of two poets who have partnered with very big companies. I think one was Jane B. Whiskey, the other was Standard Bank. So Kolega Putuma and Bruno Selesho. Yeah. So they have actually put poetry into ads.
That's amazing. Yes. Who said you can't, first of all, right?
Right. So that, I think, it may have been John Carney who said, I don't know if he was saying it himself or he was quoting someone else, if you want to be rich, you need to be in film. If you want to be famous, you need to be on television. If you want to do what you love, you should be on theater. Right?
That's cool, man. That's cool.
So theater, even theater makers, they really don't make a lot of money. They're not as well known, except for people who love theater. But television, really, now the internet. Some of the most popular poets, it's because of YouTube. But it's still not broader society.
Certainly.
It's still not broader society. However, one thing I'm always clear about is to collaborate with people outside of my craft.
Which is what I was about to ask you. So that's, a lot of poets maybe don't feel or think in that direction. Let's collaborate with Mercedes-Benz. Let's collaborate with Standard Bank. If not, why not? I think maybe that's why it's also staying so close. Like musicians will collaborate on a sneaker brand or car or whatever. Actors will be in adverts and like poets, what are you doing? Let's get out there and picture the Mercedes-Benz driving off into the sunset while a poem is being recited in the background. Suddenly you want to buy this car because your life feels that easy.
Wow.
Not all of us are going to get to ads. Of course only a handful, but what I try and do is collaborate with musicians.
Yes.
So you reach a different audience. So there are people there for music, don't really care about poetry. They encounter you there, working with that musician, and now they're interested in poetry.
You are discovered, yes.
So I've worked with people that I, either was studying with or grown up with, and we've done shows together. But I've also collaborated with, not collaborated, but shared, being put on as a featured act with Freshly Ground and Hot Sticks. So we cannot just close ourselves off. And say you want to just keep it pure, and if you really want to be able to reach wider audiences, and I think maybe that's even more than recognition.
Exactly.
For your work to travel further, collaborate with a dancer, collaborate with someone. If maybe they want to share their new label. Yeah. You have a friend who's a fashion designer. Yeah. I've done poetry at a fashion show.
Yeah.
Wow.
Where I wrote, in terms of inspired by the clothes themselves.
Yeah, sometimes fashion and poetry go hand in hand because they don't make sense.
Absolutely.
And not in a bad way, but like, you don't understand this outfit
they take time to interpret, I think is what you mean.
Is what I meant. Autocorrect, damn it, thank you. Autocorrect. Ugh, man. So, Griffin's question was, are poets respected? And what I got from your answer is, they can become much more respected if they are willing to branch out their craft into other fields.
Also, let's not be lazy.
Don't be lazy. Don't be lazy.
If you want to stand out, you have to work hard. You have to do something different.
Yes, if you want to get respect, go where the respect is given, kind of a thing.
And have a brand of excellence. People will want to work with you. So a lot of the work that I've done over the last couple of years, some of it has been unique simply because it's just putting the work in, being consistent, making sure that people can rely on you. Making sure that when they ask you for something, whether it's a commission piece, they need to trust that they're going to get the best possible quality. We can't be doing things last minute. You can't be like, oh no, I'm sorry, I know we're supposed to be in now, but because we have a bad reputation already as artists. We don't rock up on time, we don't, we're like not dressed well, no shade. We whatever, we're just generally dodgy
Shots
people.
fired.
And no one, and even business people who want to invest in our work, they say, but we can't trust artists. Because they're not consistent. They're not going to deliver what you expect them to. So let's deliver. Let's deliver.
Let's deliver. Let's gain that respect, the growth, the recognition. I mean, it's all there.
It's possible.
We just have to work hard enough or look hard enough.
Absolutely.
Guys, that is it from myself, Griffin D and Siphokazi. I really hope you enjoyed the variation in our show. Because episode you had 2 artists. Episode 2 you also had another rapper, and now we're just switching things up. For those of you who love poetry, or even if you just enjoy the what do you call it, the written word, the arts.
There we go. There we go.
And I hope you guys took something from this. Not necessarily poets, but you can use the information Siphokazi gave and apply it to whatever your artistic career choice, path choice is. Right?
Definitely. Understand that acknowledgement also does not come immediately.
For sure.
And again, we will always mention, do not box yourself in.
And don't be lazy.
Don't be lazy.
Don't be lazy.
Oh man, and that is a problem. But in all honesty, go out there, put yourself out there, put your work out there, and work with other people. And remember, there are places and people where you can find help. That's
Example, CT.
For the locals, by the locals, guys.
Siphokazi, is there anything you'd like to leave our viewers with?
Yes, it takes time. I started writing in grade 9. That's 20 years ago. It takes time. Don't stop growing. Be soft. Be malleable. Be willing to learn until you die. It doesn't matter what your age is. Just be willing to learn.
I love it. Man, that is a good way to end the show. But guys, thank you for tuning in to episode 3. If you have not seen episode 2 and episode 1, I will link it somewhere below. I don't know, somewhere. Please go check it out. And please do share if you think there is someone who can take this and grow and learn. And, it's for the locals, by the locals. Stay tuned for the next one.
We out.